Hey, so you want to find an apartment together? I was speaking into the old gray telephone handset with big orange buttons that hung from my parents' kitchen wall in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. On the other end of the line was my friend Eric DJ Strobe Cohen, talking from his apartment on 2nd Avenue in New York City's East Village. Yeah, but we have to make sure we have an extra room for my music studio, said Eric, because that's a source of additional revenue for me. No worries, I'm down for that, I noted. We also need to make sure we have a spot for the turntables. Eric enthusiastically replied, "Oh yeah." Case in point, growth hacking in Hell's Creative Kitchen. It was May of 1996. After bumming around for 2 years post-college, trying to figure out the meaning of life, translation, waiting tables, DJing at a nightclub, doing freelance design work for small businesses, and basically trying to survive while living with my parents, a close colleague offered me a job doing international marketing for what seemed to me to be every unknown musician on the planet. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it got my foot in the door. The industry was no stranger to me. I'd spent much of my time since 1991 as a radio and club disc jockey, and I'd been networking with a few in the industry on early internet chat boards and via email. So when the call came with the salary offer, $350 a week, no benefits, all I needed to do was find an affordable place to live. Enter my buddy Eric. The place we eventually found was in Hell's Kitchen, at the time a pretty rough Manhattan neighborhood with a dark history. Inhabited by poor and working-class Irish Americans at the turn of the 19th century, it had been known for its Irish gangs, and even in the 1970s, as a place where both the Irish and Italian-American mafias carried out hits. Hell's Kitchen at the time was nothing like it is today. On the night we moved in, we couldn't leave our apartment because the police were carrying out a drug raid right outside. To us, two 20-something members of the creative class, this was the perfect location to begin our future of work experiment. Although Eric worked at a computer store by day, his real craft was as a music producer and DJ. In 2016, this fact barely registers. Everyone under 30 is now a DJ producer. But in 1996, the barrier to entry was formidable, especially when compared to today's easy access via software and social networks. Eric had a small one-room studio, literally our living room in the loft space we called home, in which he would produce, remix, and master recordings. There was no need for a high-end studio with lots of fancy equipment, since software and a few pieces of hardware were his main tools, along with a good mixing desk, some audio plugins, a laptop computer, and high-end headphones. In 1997, a major record label asked Eric if he would remix a song for one of its young singer-songwriters, Jennifer Page. The label wanted different versions to give it more of a chance of being played on radio. Eric obliged and asked the label to send him the stem of the singer's vocals. A stem is a mixed group of audio sources. Later, Eric and I had a good laugh over the fact that the label representative was clueless about what Eric wanted. Eric didn't need to meet the artist. He didn't need her to re-record any vocals in the studio. All he needed was the original vocals so that he could produce an entirely new soundscape. Eric requested delivery via bike messenger of the vocal stem on digital audio tape so he could dump it into his software and build a whole new musical arrangement around the vocals. Nowadays, a stem is not a big deal. Artists regularly put stems up on YouTube so that any producer can download and remix their songs. Back then, in that Hell's Kitchen apartment, we were almost 20 years ahead of the curve. Today, songs are remixed to piggyback off another more popular artist's name. As Pablo Picasso said, good artists copy, but great artists steal. This is the essence of growth hacking. At the intersection of marketing and engineering, growth hacking is now being used by many startups to gain audience share. In the late 1990s, we were on the fringe of what has become the creative participatory or gig economy that drives the world economy. No brands created this. In fact, corporations that try to enter it usually meet with distrust. A true community supports this world organically, and no brand can